Even as the certain ideal of family was coming to be define the American way of life. Define the American way of life. Even a certain ideal of family is coming to define as American way of life. Such trends such as rising divorce rate, increase of participation of married women in the labor force, and growth of female-headed households are making this way of life increasingly atypical. In all cases, such trends preceded the 1950s. Some of the changes actually altered what was perceived as a traditional family. For example, it came to be seen as normal for married women to work even if they had small children. Okay. Other changes, though, were seen as reducing alternative families. Alternatives to traditional families include not only gays and the lesbian but heterosexual families living alone. So, it will not only the gays and the lesbian families, not only gays and the lesbian, but heterosexuals living alone, married couples with husbands at home, caring for children, as well as step families, single parent families, heterosexual couples living together outside marriage, and your lesbian couples with or without children. So some of the changes actually altered what was perceived as a traditional family. For example, it came to be seen as a normal for married women to work even if they had small children. Other changes, though, were seen as producing alternative families. Alternative to traditional families included not only gay and lesbian but heterosexuals living alone, married couples with husbands at home caring for children, as well as step families, single parents families, heterosexual couples living together outside marriage, and gay or lesbian couples with or without children. The merits of different family types. So, what are the significance or the merits of the different family types? Alternative families or alternatives to traditional families tend to be devalued. They are seen as less worthy than traditional families. However, Nicholson reject this view. Alternative families are often better than traditional ones for the women who live in them. For example, poor black women in USA derive some benefits when they live in mother-centered families, often without men. They develop strong support networks with other friends and kin who act as a kind of social insurance system. They help out the families who are most in need at a particular time if they are in position to do so. Linda Nicholson, the myth of the traditional family. So, conservative, what they do think about the conservative traditional family and how alternative families are different, and what are the merits of the different family types or the alternative types of family. There is social significance, economical significance, political significance, and all those things, cultural significance. So there has to be multi-dimensional analysis of the family as a social institution from political, economical, cultural, and the global. Such families do have disadvantages. If they have some good fortune and come into money, each family is expected to share its resources. This makes it difficult for individual families to escape poverty. Furthermore, the lack of stable heterosexual partnership means children frequently do not have the type of long-term relationship with father figures which is normative within the middle class household. Hi, Suhana. Traditional nuclear families also have disadvantages. What are the disadvantages for I don't know. I have heard that the paper was tough. मैंने सुना है paper was tough and the Supreme Court is also reviewing the paper. So let's see what happens. And some students also has been caught cheating. वैसे भी एनटीए नेशनल टेस्टिंग एजेंसी तो बर्बाद है ही और बर्बाद कर रहा है सबको. अभी एक्चुअली फ़ोन एक साइड पे लगा हुआ है, सो आई कैन नॉट टेक इट आउट. सब कुछ डिसमेंटल हो जाएगा. यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड. Traditional nuclear families also have disadvantages because both partners now tend to work. They have tremendous time pressures, making it difficult to carry out satisfactory and rewarding child care. Children who are the victims of abuse by parents have relatively little opportunity to turn to their other relatives for help. So these are the disadvantage of the nuclear family. Because both parents now tend to work, they have tremendous time pressure, making it difficult to carry out satisfactory and rewarding child care. Traditional nuclear families place a heavy burden on expectation on the partners. Expectations on the partners, and with work and child care commitments, it may be difficult for them to provide the love and companionship each partner expects. The traditional family also precludes and include gay and lesbian families. Traditional nuclear family and traditional family. Traditional nuclear families also have disadvantage because both the partners tend to work. They have tremendous time pressure, making it difficult to carry satisfactory and rewarding child. Children who are the victims of abuse by parents have little opportunity to turn to other relatives for help. Traditional nuclear families place a heavy burden of expectation on the partners, and with work and childcare commitments, it may be difficult for them to provide the love and companionship each partner expects. The traditional family also excludes gay and lesbian families. Traditional nuclear family, okay. However, traditional nuclear family do have some advantages. Their small size tends to encourage intimacy between family members. It doesn't work in India actually. So the small size tends to encourage intimacy between family members, and when the relationships work, they can be rewarding and long lasting. Traditional families can be Traditional families can be economically successful because they are not usually expected to share the resources with others. So resources with others. Now, conclusion: the fact that they have some. So, what are the disadvantages? The small size tends to advantages. Disadvantages: the small size tends to encourage economical advantage and cultural advantage. So, the small size tends to encourage intimacy between family members, and the relationship work. They can be rewarding and long lasting. Traditional families can be economically successful because they are not easily expected to share the resources with others. What's the time? 7:50. Okay. So, conclusion: the fact that they have some advantages does not mean that the traditional family are better than the alternative types of families. From Nicholson points of view, different types of families suit different women in different circumstances. Linda Nicholson. Different types of the myth of the traditional family, right? The myth of the traditional family. She believes that distinction between traditional and the alternative family should be abandoned. Alternative family, so traditional family. Different types of families with different women in different circumstances. They believe the distinction between traditional and alternative families should be abandoned. The distinction implies that traditional families are better, which when this is often not true. In any case, the idea of the traditional family misleadingly implies that such families have long been the norm when in fact they have only become widespread in the recent time during the Industrial Revolution and have been totally dominant. By the late 1990s, so many people lived in alternatives to traditional families. So by the late 1990s, so many people lived in alternatives to traditional families that the idea of the traditional family had been totally outdated. Nicholson therefore concludes that all types of family and household should be acknowledged and accepted because they could suit women in different circumstances. She advocates the celebration of greater choice for people in deciding on their own living arrangements. Cheshire Calon, lesbian as family outlaws. Now the different another feminist that has introduced her theory right now is Cheshire Calon, lesbian as family outlaws. So if we view this perspective from traditional family conservative approach, then lesbian families are the families which are not the norm. They are illegal. Why? The reason is that culturally they are not a dominant type of family. They have been not given legal validation in many countries, and there is a fear among the conservatives that such type of family will destroy the dominant traditional nuclear type of family in the society and will pose a challenge to sacred relationships such as marriage. It will also impact the socialization of the children and could lead to conflict in the society or discourage value consensus in the society. So, Cesare Calon, lesbian as family outlaws. The myth of the traditional is so sleepy. Like Linda Nicholson, Cesare Calon develops a type of difference feminism. And different types of family or a diverse type of family. So, like Linda Nicholson, Cesare Calon develops a type of difference feminism influenced by postmodernist. Okay. Unlike Nicholson, she focuses on lesbian families rather than looking at the merits of variety of. So mainly she focuses on lesbian families, specific to lesbian families. Unlike Nicholson, she focuses on lesbian families rather than looking at the merits of variety of family forms for women. Callan is a postmodernist, different feminist from the United States. Okay, she's a postmodernist and different feminist. Lesbian families. Cesare Callan laid down the the rights of the traditional family, the myths of the traditional family, right? It's the myths of the traditional family. How many chapters I have? Lord. So much. Okay, lesbian and feminist. Callan argues that traditional feminists are right to argue that women are exploited. Okay, traditional feminist who sees a postmodernist as well as different feminists. So lesbian and feminist. So we'll focus on this. Okay, anyhow, we'll finish it. The family industrialization and modernization. How was the pre-industrial family? Then the industrial family and what is the post-industrial family? Where we have different thinkers, people like the family in pre-industrial societies. Family diversity. Kellen argues that traditional feminists are right to argue that women are exploited within the families, but wrong to argue that the exploitation of women is an inevitable. Okay. Women are exploited within the family, but wrong to argue that exploitation of women is an inevitable feature. Exploitation of women is an inevitable feature in the family life. That the exploitation results from the heterosexual family. Lesbian family. Lesbian family problem. So many possibility women can become women can become dependent on men and exploited by them. Some feminists argue that lesbian feminists argue that women should avoid forming families. Women should avoid forming families, but Kellen disagrees. That women should avoid family. In lesbian, it is not possible women can become dependent on men and exploited by them. Some lesbian feminists argue that women should avoid forming families, but Calvin disagrees. According to it is not family life itself that leads to the exploitation of the women. It leads to exploitation of the women. Rather, it is a family life within patriarchal heterosexual marriages that is a problem. Lesbian marriage and mothering can avoid exploitative relationships. Exploitative relationship are typical of the heterosexual marriage. Indeed, lesbian partners may be able to develop forms of families and family life, forms of marriage and family life, heterosexual marriage. may be able to develop forms of marriage and the family life which can point the way to creating more egalitarian and domestic relationship. The view is in a stark contrast to a more conventional view that lesbian and gays cannot develop proper marriages. Caroline, what is the name? Cheshire Caroline. Cheshire Caroline. Cannot develop proper marriages or construct genuine families. According to canon, gays and lesbians have historically been portrayed as family outlaws. Has been portrayed as family outlaws. Their sexuality has been seen as threatening to the family. They have been portrayed as outsiders to the family and as displaying most virulent forms of the family disrupting behavior. However, Calhoun believes that the anxiety among heterosexuals about the gays and the anxiety among the heterosexual about the gays and the lesbian has in fact been caused by anxiety about the state of the heterosexual nuclear family. The heterosexual nuclear families. Rather than recognizing and acknowledging the problems with such families, heterosexuals have tried to attribute the problem to corrupting outsiders or outlaws. That is the gays and the lesbians. According to canon, modern family life is essentially characterized by choice. Okay, choice, individualism, freedom. Lesbian the gays introduced the ideas of chosen families, right? Yeah, chosen families. You can choose whom to include in your family without the restrictions of blood ties or the expectation of settling down with and marrying an opposite sex partner. So these are the chosen families where you can choose which individual or the person can be a part of your family. Okay. Now, however, heterosexuals also construct chosen families as they divorce, remarry, separate, choose new partners, adopt children, gain stepchildren, and so on. Rather than seeing the above changes in a positive limelight, many commentators have seen them as a threat to the traditional families and the institution of marriage, as I've already mentioned before. This time there have been two main types of family outlaw who have been scapegoated and blamed for the changes. These are unwed welfare mother and the lesbian. Okay, unwed welfare mother. Hi, Master. How are you, Master Facts? If you like the channel, then you can subscribe it. Go and watch the content of my channel. If you like it, then you can subscribe it. So these are the unwed welfare mother and the lesbian. So this family is considered dangerous for the society as a whole, as it could disturb the traditional form of institution like marriage and the family. So I'll just finish the conclusion and I'll be back after 5 minutes break. So this is a Pomodoro technique that we're using while studying. So I'll be back after 5 minutes break. Thank you.